Hello, my name is Lilian Molel, and today is December 20th, 2019. And today I'm going to be speaking about Platform as a Service, also known as PaaS, and some people refer to it as PaaS. So, Platform as a Service is one of the three basic models of cloud computing. So the other two models are really not part of my presentation today, but I'm going to discuss very briefly about them, just to give you a very brief overview. Okay, starting with infrastructure as a service, also known as IaaS. What this is a service whereby the equipment and the infrastructure and the supporting application is owned by the service provider, and the consumer is allowed to upload or install the application into the infrastructure, and the consumer is able to use the application, but the consumer does not own the hardware and all the infrastructure. Those are owned by the service provider. The consumer only owns the application, and the consumer is able to use the application um, by paying a fee. Okay, so the other model is known as software as a service, also referred to as SaaS. Okay, now software as a service is a service whereby a consumer does not own anything at all. Everything is owned by the service provider. Um, and so a consumer only subscribes to use the application. And so the service provider would provide the username and the password to the consumer, and the consumer will use the password and the username to connect to the service and use the application. So, and this is usually the easiest model to understand because a lot of people use this model, software as a service. For example, when you use Google Photo or when you use the email, those are just some example of software as a service. And that is all I'm going to talk today about these two models. So going back to my main topic, which is the platform as a service model. Um, the platform as a service is basically for web developers, and this is where service provider provides programming runtime environment, and they provide all the hardware, including the operating system, security, RAM, processors, and everything that really supports the developer to develop, test, and run the code. So the developer, all they need to do is just drop the code in the folder provided to them by the service provider, and the code will run. So they don't have to worry about the environment, they don't have to worry about the hardware because all of that is owned by the service provider. Um, so, who are the users of platform as a service? Typically, the users are IT developers because this is for web development. And it doesn't have to be IT developer. It could even be just a private person wanting to maybe start develop like maybe the next Facebook or anything like that. So they are able to purchase this service and upload their code and test and run. Um, so who are the providers of the PaaS? PaaS. Um, the major providers are right now Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. And there are many, many other startup companies because cloud computing is becoming a popular service. So you would find that a lot of companies try to tap into um, the market to take advantage of cloud computing. But the main ones are usually Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google App Engine. So how do you pick the right platform? There are multiple things to consider when you select the right platform for your development, web application development. You have to consider I/O performance because they vary, and you want to make sure that the platform that you pick can handle your workload. Um, so the I/O performance doesn't slow down as your workload scales up. Another thing to consider is application compatibility with your platform. This basically means that the platform can support whatever language that you decide to use to develop your web application. And another aspect to consider is the price. And my understanding is that the cheapest is not always the best, because you could see a cheap platform and you buy the cheap platform, but as your company continues to grow, then you're going to need to scale up. So you're going to need maybe more memory or faster processing speed. So the more you expand, you pay for your expenditure, for your scalability. So you can end up it can end up costing you a lot of money. So the cheapest is not always the best determinant of the platform that you want. Another factor to consider is company longevity. Like I've stated up above, that there are so many companies that are beginning to come into the cloud computing world. So you need to be careful which company you select. You don't want to select a company that's going to shut down. Um, yeah. And also, so what are the advantages of PaaS? Runtime environment is provided for you. You don't have to incur any expenses of maintaining your runtime environment. And so all you do is place your code and run your code in the cloud and pay a fee, and that's it. So the advantage is the simplicity of being able to develop your application without having to worry about all of the other expenses. The disadvantages will be that it can get costly. Like as you scale up, the more money you're gonna pay. So you may reach a stage where it's better to just have your own server internally and not subscribe to the cloud computing. So that could be a disadvantage of cloud computing. Another disadvantage could be hosting. The hosting company could go out of business. Like I stated, there are so many companies out there trying to get in the cloud computing market. So when the company goes out of business, then you're going to be faced with the situation where you have to migrate your application to another platform, and that can be a very, very difficult thing to do. You might need to rewrite your code, or you might need to the entire application or partially rewrite your application to be able to migrate. And another disadvantage could be the processing speed can be poor, can be compromised as your application, as you get more and more customers using your application. So basically, in conclusion, cloud computing in general simplifies IT. It simplifies IT in the sense that the ownership of the equipment and the management is no longer with the IT, but it's with the provider of the cloud. And also, it reduces cloud computing can reduce data centers in IT environment, and can also reduce data warehousing because everything will be managed by the cloud provider. Thank you very much, and that's the end of my presentation.